What's popping?
Good.
Got Chef in here any second now. There we go.
What is the deal?
What's going on, fellas?
It's another night.
All right, let's get to it.
How y'all week going?
It's cool. Hey, another opportunity to make $1, man. We working, man. We working out here. It's slow, but hey, we getting there.
It's kind of weird. The week feels long, but we had Monday off.
Right.
Someone
I worked on Monday. I worked on Monday, so
someone's gassing you in the comments, Walt.
hey, we gotta keep the red lights, man. That's all new all day. People it's an all day thing, man. You gotta keep the red lights on.
About you,
I
Jay,
stay ready, so I gotta get ready.
School, bro. That's about it.
I hear you.
That's about it.
I'm excited for you to be done, man. Have that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting. Same time, that you know how it go.
What's the weather like? Cause you in Ellensburg too, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was like, I want to say in the teens.
Yeah, we got some snow the other day though for like a minute.
Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah, bro. Springtime couldn't come any sooner, bro.
Mm.
Oh, I feel it. Hey, y'all, what's the deal with Kanye? What's the lowdown on that? Did he fumble?
He fumbled, dog, big time. In my opinion.
Did he fumble with Kim? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. Like, I really need to know the situation on like what they was, because they was married. I know bro be having his lapses, and I know I know Kim fit him, but like, man, what about the kids, bro? That's what I'm
yeah. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, honestly though, this dude, I'm gonna tell you why I think he fumbled. Everyone knows Kanye. He does all this crazy stuff. He says all these crazy remarks. And Kim, you know what I'm saying? Kim ain't no regular. She got a status too, you know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure her DM's hot. She knows some wealthy people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Her rebound game is gonna be phenomenal no matter what, you know what I'm saying? So for her to stick by him during that time, you know what I'm saying? That just shows like what type of woman she is, you know what I'm saying? Because I know a lot of people would have left or would have dipped in that situation, but she stayed by him until she had too much, and now like she, even if she want to get with what's his name, skinny dude, white Davidson, yeah, and,
hey, what's the deal with all these women choosing dudes that look like Pete and Megan Fox was Machine Gun Kelly? Man, bro, look like a Chipotle bag, bro.
Hey. I don't know. At the end of the day, their conversation must be nice. They connected on some type of level, you know what I'm saying? Because a girl like Kim K, she can probably have any dude in this world. All she had to do was apply pressure. So for her to pull up with Pete Davidson, either, he must be doing something right. He must be doing something right, because I don't see it. But
well, I think you fumbled, to be honest, but
yeah,
that's just my opinion.
Why? You can't say
why
without a reason.
I mean, just kind of the way he's acting kind of makes me think that,
he missed her, low-key.
You feel me?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Man.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the celebrities, like, that's a whole different type of lifestyle that I'll never really ever understand. So.
No, hey man, no. Hey, once this podcast blow up, you know what I'm saying? We get the blue check or whatever. We hanging out on the red carpet. Next thing you know, we're gonna see Kim K. We're gonna be like, hey kid, we did a little topic on you.
Someone said I think it's white boy season. I don't know about all that.
I don't know, man. Hey, it's whatever she likes.
But hey, let's get into it though. Just kind of want to break down to you guys that are watching us right now. The past month, I believe this is our 4th episode we've done. We start with an intro episode, which was a great opportunity for us to just share what this podcast was going to be about, who we are individually. As you guys will see throughout, the year, when we do podcasts about probably 3-4, in a row, it'll all kind of come together to coincide together. So we want to make sure that we're tying all these episodes together, that they make sense, that they've got rhythm, that they've got routine. So to just break it down, we started with the intro, as I just stated, and then that second episode, help me out, fellas. The second one, we started with the transition.
We did the transition period, yeah.
That's right. Starting from being basically a kid, being someone in high school, doesn't know much about the world, kind of just starting out, transitioning into that adult phase of life. And then we brought in a guest speaker. Again, shout out Coach T. Ford. He talked about what it takes to be a genuine person, what it takes to be real. Does skin color matter in that aspect? We discussed all that. And tonight, for kind of our last episode of this series, we're getting into what is racial profiling? What does that mean? Does it have an effect for just one certain type of ethnicity, or does it affect multiple ethnicities? So the question to kind of start us out for the night is, when it comes to racial profiling, and Jay, go ahead and kick us off. Does having a certain skin color matter, or are there differences, or there similarities? What are they?
I would honestly think the core of it comes from like a misperception, depending on how you were raised or what you see. Because I don't think racism stands in one pool of one ethnicity. I think it can really be shown through a whole. And I think, but then again, we talked about like what's the difference between racial profiling and being ignorant or having like stereotypes. Like it's kind of I don't know. It's a little difficult to like kind of grasp the concept of it. But then again, I just think it comes from the core of how you were raised and not being able to like have conversation. I feel like a lot of people that are racist, honestly, racism, I think is a lot of the time derived from hate. And if you got hate, then you got to figure out why you got hate. Or if you see something on the TV that triggers you to feel angry or triggers like, then you got to dig a little deep to figure out what's really triggering you. Is it the color of their skin? Is it what they do with their lifestyle? Is it how they get more love on this, or how they're like, you can get into a lot.
Yeah, we definitely saw that with the whole Black Lives Matter, George Floyd situation that happened in the summer of 2020. Yeah. But I really liked the key word that you brought up. That was stereotype. Walt, do you have any kind of additional comments towards that? Like, what even is a stereotype for those that aren't really aware of what that is?
Honestly, it's just like just prejudging somebody just off of like just one person. You put that one person that represents the whole group of it, or just having that prejudgment because of one person. I think, in my opinion, because a lot of other people may have their own opinion on what it could mean, because like it's one word, but it can go. You can break it down into so many different pieces. But like he said, it's not just one pool of one race. You know what I'm saying? It's multiple. It's all races. Anyone can be a stereotype for any race. But I can only speak from my experience, so I can't really go into detail on stereotypes for this or that. But I can just show stereotypes that I know of and that I heard. But mostly, it's just that one person making that one judgment off one person and putting it around a whole group of people.
Yeah, that's what I think. Kind of that personal bias.
Yeah.
Because I think definitely just within either a job or sports, coaches, people have their own personal biases all the time. And it's pretty obvious to see once you get to know somebody, how they feel about certain people and different ethnicities and whatnot. But I think when we look at from a minority perspective, because obviously that's all we can speak on, do those stereotypes exist as often, do you think? Or those, I guess, prejudices exist as often?
Or two.
Yeah, it could be anybody.
I mean, I think I definitely have stereotypes within I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. Do I notice when I'd be like thinking like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, on what I see, my personal experiences, I definitely have, and they could be good stereotypes or bad stereotypes. I'm not saying they're all bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're towards strictly males or strictly females. That's what it'd be like. So I definitely have.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it, and you see it all the time, like on your day to day. Like, it could be that little subtle comment or just that remark. Like, and I don't know if y'all, I'm pretty sure y'all have heard this remark, but like, just when you're black and you kind of need to, you're in a serious situation, and you kind of need to, pronunciate all your words, and you gotta talk at a nice soothed mood, a tone. They say, oh, you don't talk like you talk white, or you don't talk black, like just that, like, so that's just, go ahead, I'll let you go ahead and take that.
That I hate when people say that, and it comes from both spectrums. It comes from brothers and it comes from white people at the same time, and
Exactly.
it's like that's a problem in itself, really.
Yeah, because if you honestly, if you listen to what they're saying on whatever side, coming from the people or whoever, like if you really listen to it, it's like, okay, I'm black, I gotta talk white or whatever it is. So what are you really saying? What you gotta, if you dig down into that comment, like, what are you really saying? What are you really saying?
It's really putting your mind in a damn box, saying that you can't speak with proper grammar.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to speak in slang. Like that's it. It be making me mad, bro. But that's
Okay, but the next question is, where does that come from? Like, where does this come from? The comment of, well, you don't talk black, or you talk white. Like, where does that stem from?
It comes from white people that say, and then it comes from black people that say it as what is. Look it.
I'm gonna even take it a step further on you. I think it comes from how TV started.
Oh yeah.
Start there. That's what I'm gonna start with, because obviously, as we see in our TV industry, we see in social media, drama sells. And we all know this. Drama sells. Everyone wants to watch, everyone likes chaos. Let's just be honest. Everyone likes to watch chaos. So when we look at when TV first started, and when TV shows first started to really like take off, like bump, like everyone in their homes that had a TV would watch, like Saturday Night Live, like things like that. What was the, I guess, demographic, right? It was targeting specific groups and basically putting them in stereotypes, or like, for example, black people act like this, or black kids act like this, or black women act like that, or white people live in these homes, So it grouped us all into these things where I think subconsciously we start to develop these biases that are like, hey, he's white, or he's black, or she's a black woman, or he's a black male. He is involved in XYZ, or he has XY, or she has XYZ. So I think
that's stereotyping. That's stereotyping. Yeah. That's just stereotyping right there. Just that alone, putting that, like, that one judgment of one person. And like you said, not all stereotypes are bad, and some can be a good stereotype. You know what I'm saying? Like, we watch comedies, we watch comedians, or we watch shows, and they have a persona of how, black people act, and we laugh because, like, sometimes we're like, oh man, that is true. Like he got that one on the tee on that one. So it's like, you got to really just know what you're playing with.
Hey, question for both of y'all. So if we talk about how TV's infiltrated families and other people's eyes, and we're dealing with the biases of those the last 20, 30, 40 years, how do you think music from our generation is going to play factor when it's 2050, 2060?
Yeah.
With technology also involved in that.
Well, I think just by music and social media alone, I mean, we always talk about let's change the narrative. But we have these platforms like TikTok, and, like, I'm just going to use TikTok because that just adds to the stereotype, if anything. Like, I've seen countless amount of videos where, whether it's black people, white people, Asians, Latinas, Hispanics, they just feed into the narrative. And honestly, that's what these big corporations and people at the top, that's what they want. That's what they want, because it's what sells. I mean, it's what puts money in their pocket. Mm-hmm. So if we really want to change the narrative, like we've got to change how we act and what we watch and what we put into our ears and what we allow ourselves to view. But it's so easy to talk about, but not everyone really wants to be on board with that, or better yet, even sees it as a problem.
That's the first thing. I think you got to be aware to it first,
Yeah.
because then you can catch yourself.
What do you think, Walt?
You gotta. I don't know what episode it was. I think it was the transitional episode where I talk about your picking out your flaws. You got to acknowledge it first, because if you want to change, you can't. If you don't know what the problem is, you can't fix it. So like I think Jay, you just said it. Like you gotta, if you want to fit, you're feeding into that narrative. You gotta be like, oh, like that's it, and you gotta just kind of ease back on it. But first, you gotta just flat out just acknowledge it first, and you gotta catch yourself. And you may not even catch yourself. You may just at this point, like you said, it's like TikTok, social media. You may be so like deep down in it that like you gotta really just like damn, like you gotta really catch yourself and see what you're doing, and then you gotta fall back and go from there. But you gotta acknowledge it.
A question I have, I want to throw a little wrench in here real quick. The N-word. Now I know it's like when that word comes up or that topic, everyone's like, ooh, like let's stay away from that. But just take the N-word. We see it in all over social media. We see it in movies, TV, music, for sure. Is it something that you think white and black people should be saying? Should black people be saying it? Should black people be giving white people the card, or other ethnicities the card to say it? And what does that do? What does that do to our society?
Honestly, it starts. You gotta look at when the N-word is being said. Like 90 to 95% of it, if someone is saying it, well, mostly let's just talk about the people that aren't black, right? 90 to 95%, if they're saying it in a song, right? They're saying it in a rap song. And I think you got to look at just the music itself, like just hip hop, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to realize like most of these people, these young white kids saying it, like this is what they're hearing, you know what I'm saying? And N-word this and N-word that, you know what I'm saying? You know, us, like we gon' like black people, we're kind of like, oh, we can say it, you can't say it. But it's like, if you got Lil Timmy, his favorite, you know, rapper is saying it, like he's hearing it day in and day out. He's like, oh man, it's just, especially if they don't know the back history of it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where it starts. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
and that's a deep question right there, because hey, but I think it starts with the music, man. I think it starts with the music, and like we got to just realize, like, if no matter the fact is, a lot of people may not agree with me, but people want to, the black culture is so powerful in this world. You know what I'm saying? It's so powerful, and it's so like a lot of people, they try to take little bits from it and do all this and take this, but they don't want the full responsibility that comes with it. You know what I'm saying? All the negatives and the stereotypes and the profiling and all that negative stuff, right? So we have this influence on everyone else. If we want them to stop saying it, we got to look at ourselves like, hey, well, if they see us saying it to each other, or, you know, a black person is saying it to a white person, hey, man, you my N-word. But then, like, if he comes back with it, we're mad. But it's like, he's like, what you, like, so I think you got to look at it in that light, too. So if it's something that's like, oh, if you hear it and you're ready to throw down, it's something you're truly passionate about, and like, hey, man, that's not cool, no matter if it's a song, or even if I tell you can say it, you still don't need to say it, then we need to look at each other like, hey, these are what these people, they're listening to us say. That's all we talk about. That's this and that. So I think it's bigger than just like, oh, they said it. We got to see how we're putting that word out, because we're putting that word back out. You know what I'm saying? We're making that word kind of, you know, it's
becoming so normalized.
Yeah, and the music, you know what I'm saying? In the music, for one, that's what I said. Like it's coming, so like you hear it everywhere, you know, and. Yeah, it's becoming just but you can also take the power out of a word too. You know what I'm saying? You can take the power out of a word. So it's just about how you handle certain things.
What you think, Jay?
I think Walt mentioned some very important points. First off, with how somebody else that's not black, if they were to say that word, it would trigger us. And then that's when you got people beefing, you got people getting in fights. And then you talk about looking back on ourselves, like, well, if we stop using it as much as we would, what would be the percentage of that problem would go down with just us doing it? And I think I mean, I say it a lot, to keep it a buck.
Mm-hmm.
I catch myself saying it. I'd say the last half year, I've been trying to slowly like chop away at it because it's in my conversation, it's in my dialogue. And I mean, I'm not saying it's anything bad, but if I'm looking at a problem where I'm at a concert bumping and half of the folks behind me is, and it's making me mad, like,
Yeah.
I have to.
But you saying that it just triggers something for me. Like, I don't know if y'all seen it, but I seen a video. It's an old video of Eazy-E. He was getting interviewed by a reporter, and he asked Eazy. He was like, "Hey, what would you do if a white guy walked up to you and said, 'What's up, N-word?'" And with the and he was just like, "Oh, if he had the GA, I would probably dap him up and say, 'What's up, my N-word?'" He's like, "But what if he had that, the harder one to it?" He was like, "You know what? I would probably be on top of him, smashing his head right now." So it's like, that brings back to what Jaden said too. Like, I think it was last episode, like, how do you deal with someone because this generation now, and even if we go further on, because they don't teach it in our schools, they don't, you got to realize they're going to be so uneducated on the true meaning of that word. And then you got these young kids seeing us saying it like, "Oh, it's just how y'all greet each other. It's how it's a cool word," you know what I'm saying? So you got to realize like where that word is coming from. Is it coming from a sense of like, "Oh, this person just young kid that hear this word, he think he cool and he wants to be like his favorite athlete. His athlete is probably black. His favorite, rap or artist is probably black." You know what I'm saying? So he's hearing this growing up. He's hearing it constantly. So it's like you got to be able to depict like, okay, this person may not just be educated, or this person they slide. They got that double meaning. They know what they're doing, and they're trying to be smart, and they're trying to, So it's
well, it's interesting because words, their meanings change over time with culture and with different generations. I mean, just from reading the Bible, I mean, look at the A word, right? That was referred to as an animal, a donkey. But as we see over time, like obviously that word's changed significantly. So I think what you say to that kind of transitions well into kind of the subtopic of tonight is like upbringing. Like, does upbringing matter in terms of education, in terms of parenting, older siblings, representation, example, etc.? I mean, the list can go on and on. But how does upbringing affect how people think and how people talk and see the world?
You want to take this one, Jay?
Yeah, you get that first.
So, like, in a sense of just flat out in general upbringing, or like with hate or like prejudice, like
you can spin it. You can spin it any way you like.
Well, I'm just going, since we already talked about stereotypes and profiling, I'm just going to talk about the sense of just being upbringing and saying that racism and hate and all that, like that's taught. No one is born racist. No one is born with like, okay, I hate this. I think this race is less than this race. No one is born that way. It's your upbringing. It's your what you're around. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, like, I got family in the South. Obviously I stay in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? In the South, like, if you go back to the roots and you just see how my cousins grew up and just the white people around, that's just what the things they would say is different from what some older white people up here would say. You know what I'm saying? That's just what they were around. And going back to, like I said before, it's all about weighing that out. Like, is that someone that's being ignorant and doesn't want to be open-minded, or is it someone that's just uneducated and they don't know? But Jalen, you also said it. How old is that person? Because if they old enough, they should be able to know, like, hey, back then this word meant this. You know what I'm saying? Even now it may be cool, but back then that's how we used to degrade them. Okay, they could take this word now and make it cool, but at the end of the day, that word always gonna have when it comes from someone over there, a white person, it's always gonna have that double meaning. just because of the history of it. You know what I'm saying? So upbringing is really really key. You know what I'm saying, for something like that. You can't just wake up and look at something and just say, oh, it's school you go to, your parents, your sibling, everything you're around, just what you hear. Like babies, they don't know any words. They don't know what when they don't have a language that they're speaking. They hear it and they teach them that's what they constantly hear. And next thing you know, they baba, dada, mom, this and that, and then it gets better as they go. So
Right.
it's all about just what you hear and what you're around.
I agree. I mean, I think upbringing is really the foundation. You can't like I think of a little baby as like a sponge. So
Exactly.
Yep.
That's exactly what I was stuck. Yep, that's what it is.
like depending on how someone, and basically adult is kind of like the bigger picture of it from what came out of that sponge. But like, yeah, I think how you're raised is basically, I say at least 85% of who you are. There might be a small chunk of that you're able to change as you get older. But if you grow up and you're 30 years old, 35 years old, and you still have things within you that you don't really know because it's been in you your whole life, and you try to change that, like that's going to be pretty damn hard to erase 35 years of a habit that you've been living with, not aware to.
Right.
It's like again, to like the tree reference, like if you're a seed at 0 and then you're born, and those roots for 35 years, 40 years are just growing deeper into the ground and grabbing more soil and being more firm into the ground. Like it's going to be pretty, as older folk, it's going to be pretty difficult to like knock that tree down or knock those roots out the way because they're so deeply ingrained. But miracles happen. So that like it goes back onto being aware of something. But I would say your upbringing has a big influence.
I like to kind of think of it as like upbringing is kind of similar to like a lighthouse. Like it lights your way, it lights your path for where whoever raised you, where you think you should be going, you know. But at some point in every person's life, man or woman, you have to choose that path for yourself. You have to choose the direction, how you think, how you live your life, what you do for work, how you raise your own family. But when you said like about 85% of who you are is your upbringing, I definitely would agree because that's all you know growing up. Like, for example, for myself personally, like growing up in the church, that's where my parents had me. I didn't know any different until, started to get junior year of high school. I started to kind of get a mind for myself, and I thought I knew everything. And, it wasn't until like 18, 19 years old where I really made my faith my own. But it's like, at some point, there's that conscious decision. You got to choose what path you want for yourself. Yeah. There becomes an age where what your parents taught you, like, honestly, isn't enough. Like, it's there, but it's not enough because you have to choose what you're going to believe. You have to choose what you're going to do with your life. You have to choose, when you wake up, how you're going to go about your day. Because as for all of us, like as we talked about that transition, once you get to the other side, that adult side of things, it's all on you.
Yeah.
No one else is, holding your hand, walking you through it. So, as of right now, like for the people that are here watching and tuning in, go ahead and ask questions before we wrap things up here. As far as upbringing is concerned, we said that upbringing is like 85% of who you are as a person. That other 15%, where does that kind of teaching mentality and coaching for how you see life differently come from, or where can it come from? Let's just dive into a few topics and answers of where we think you can kind of gain additional information from on what makes you up as a person.
I mean, like, honestly, you can use your example. Like you said, like, you grew up in the church, and then once you got, like, what you say, junior high or, like, middle school or, like, 15, 16, that's when you kind of, like, branched out and you kind of, like, you kind of went your own way in a sense. Like, you kind of led your own party, and that, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just people around you, what you're seeing, like, seeing other people's failures and successes, like, you're becoming a young man and stuff like that. So I think that 15% is just going to come from just like your upbringing, but your upbringing may be different at 16, 17, 18 than, well, not really upbringing, but I'll say just your crowd, who you're
Influence.
around. That's it, your influencer. So it's um, like just who you're around, what you're listening to, what type of area you're living in, what you're seeing. Like all that can factor in what type of person you want to be. It may not have that big of effect, but if you add little stuff like that, it's going to add up to that 15% because that 85% is already taken care of. It's already in you. No matter what you think or you decide to do, that 85% is already stoned inside of you. So it puts you in a spot, but you
Yeah.
have different roles that you can take. So with your influences, like, hey, you might have a crowd that's here, like, oh, you know what, they're doing this, and it kind of influenced me. I think I can do this. Or you might have that one crowd say, you know what, no, forget them. Like, you should take this right and come this way. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying no one is telling you what to do, but it's just like that's what it's when someone's your influencer around you. That's what that action is kind of like. It's kind of like something that's kind of steering you that way. They may not necessarily say, hey, Jada, you need to go left, you need to go right, but just when someone has that influence on you or something, that's what it, that's essentially that action. In my opinion, that's what it is.
Jay?
This is a little off, but with that 85% that's already in you, I think there's a misconception that let's say you have some negative in that 85%, that negative is going to stay negative. An example of that personally can be um, growing up. What I seen, I could use it. I could use it to do a lot of things that are not good for me, or there could be the side of me that uses the pain, the emotion within that, and paints something completely great out of it. So I think that
That's
thought,
good.
oh, I was raised this way, I saw this as a kid, like, gives me an excuse to be a grown man and tend to lean on that or use it as an excuse or say that it's too big for me to overcome. But like there's always that 50-50 cut. Like you can use it to do the same exact thing, fall into the same pattern, or you can use everything that you felt in that and flip it and restart the cycle in a way. Um, but go back to your original question that you asked after once you got into it after that, the second part.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Talking
What,
about the 85%?
yeah. What you just asked Walt.
I mean, to add on that, I think that the other 15% that kind of comes into play is like what you said, influence. But I
Yeah.
think it also comes from experience too, because you may have a solid influence, but your past experience can either lead you in a direction that's positive or negative, which I think
Yeah.
was what Jalen was saying. Sometimes that influence doesn't, sometimes influences aren't always positive either.
Yeah.
So just based off that experience alone, you can choose which route you want to go. And I think that's what we're seeing, especially this first series of our podcast. You know, you break down every episode. What is the one question it comes down to, or the one statement it comes down to? And I think that is life. Life is a game of decisions. It's little decisions every single day, and you have to make those choices for yourself. And it either leads to a positive or a negative result. And when those bad decisions happen, there's consequences, and sometimes those consequences not only affect you, it affects other people. But you have to make those choices, and like Walt, what you've been saying this whole month is being consistent and taking things day by day and not letting emotions get the best of you. Because regardless of who you are, regardless of gender, sex, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, is we all have to decide for ourselves at some point who we're going to be and what we want to be and how we want to be seen, who we want to be viewed as in our community. That's not something, and we go back to upbringing, that's not something that you're not always going to be under your parents' roof. You're not going to always be under your parents' shadow. At some point, you get to that point, you're like, okay, I'm my own thing. It's up to me now. The consequences fall on my head. It doesn't fall on my family's anymore. So as we get into the next couple episodes, we're looking forward to breaking down the next recap with you guys. Going over the recap will break down the whole series of this episode, these past 4 episodes that we've done. But just want to say thank you again and appreciate all of you that were on today, that have tapped in with us for the past month. You know, couple things to shout out on Instagram, kind of small victories for us. We see these as big victories, but small victories on a large scale.
And
go ahead, Walt.
Let them know, like, hey, like we trying to get this thing going. So we got YouTube now. We got Instagram. We got Twitter. We got TikTok. We got it all. So, I mean, just click. We got the YouTube in the bio. Just support that. Share it. Subscribe if you got an account. You know, we just trying to get this thing going, man. So y'all feedback means everything. Just show some love, man. Send it to your people. Comment on it. Repost it. You know, we try to go live every week. You know, by the end of the day, like we some young working black men, so things come up. You know, like. So we do the best we can and try to give y'all the best content, and like just let us know, like some of y'all have our personal accounts, so you can hit us DM questions y'all have or any suggestions, man. Like we're still new to this, you know, so any kind of feedback we'll take. So like I said, just a simple post will be a big victory for us. So yeah, we'll really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, to echo that, it's been nice to see, you know, we're up past 100 followers on Instagram, 10 subscribers on YouTube just in a day. And while to others that may be, you know, meaningless, that is a big win to us. You know, every follower, every subscriber, anything we can get is a positive in our book, and we're just gonna keep running with this thing and trying to give you all the best content and information that we can. So again, appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to tap in with us next week.
Yes, sir.
Thursday.